Coming at you live from all over Ohio. A Cleveland Browns podcast full of laughs, rants, fun, and stats. A place where all Browns fans' voices are welcome and heard. A show that aims to inform and entertain you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Barking Browns Show.
Good Tuesday evening to you, everybody out there. Another Victory Tuesday. I hope y'all are enjoying it as much as I am, because you bet your ass I am. Welcome into episode 127 of the Barking Brown Show. I'm Jacob. That's Nick. Down below, Mr. Casey Kinnaman. We are brought to you as always by our friends over at Homage Apparel. I've got the Brownie the Elf, classic Brownie the Elf. I've got the Joe Thomas on. Check out our friends at Homage Apparel down in the link in the description down below. You can go check them out, get yourself set up. Get you a Victory Monday t-shirt, because I think you'll need some more of those coming up. So go check them out. Best apparel company in the business. Gentlemen, how are we this fine Tuesday?
It's a good day for the NFL Jam Myles Garrett Nick Chubb shirt, I'll tell you, because we got the Myles Garrett talking about how he wants to be a lifelong Brown today. That put a little extra pep in my Victory Tuesday action. But you know what? We predicted, we were all on the pregame show, and we predicted blowout, and we got one. So I'm fantastic. How are you feeling, Casey?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great. Like you said, hearing Myles talk about wanting to be in Cleveland for the remainder of his career, man, that'll put a smile on your face. And the vibes are great. You know, can you remember the last time you celebrated a shutout? I can't. So
no.
I'm reveling in it. I got about another 24 before I move on.
I was in high school. I'm 32, almost 33, and I was in high school the last time they had a shutout. So, and do you remember? I know Casey does. Nick, do you remember what the last shutout was?
Yes, it was the 8-0 win over the Buffalo Bills, the infamous snow game.
Yeah, the Snow Bowl. That was a horrible game to watch on television, and I can only imagine the people that were in the attendance. Like, could you imagine watching that game and being a fan of the team that loses if you're there in person and you sat through all of that and then you don't even get a win? Like, are you shitting me? Like I would be furious if I sat through all of that. And it's like, okay, whatever. We got our friends popping in over here. Josh, it feels good to be a Browns fan. Sure does. Mitch, enjoying the live content. We're happy to have you here, Mitch.
What's up, Mitch?
Perrion did sign with the Jets.
Did he? Okay.
That was weird.
Perrion in New York. What could go wrong?
Right.
Yeah. Anthony Schwartz is working out for the Dolphins.
Nice. Good for him. That team
they need some speed. They need some speed. So
that team literally just hoards speed.
They're just like,
give me every little bit of speed the NFL has to offer, and I'm going to put it in Miami. And it's like, you know what? Screw it. I love it. They when they play better defenses, it isn't quite as good, but I love what they're doing. I love Mike McDaniel. I love what they're doing down there. So, guys, we're going to get into the Browns dismantling of the Cardinals. We're going to do our midseason awards tonight as well. That'll be about the middle of the show, and then we'll touch a little bit on Baltimore. I've watched a few of the few Baltimore games, but I still need to watch their most recent games. So I'm not really. Yeah, they've been really good. I know. Yeah, I still gotta watch it just for the prep. So I'm not all the way through my prep, but what I can tell you is they're really good at the football. They're playing really good right now. So I'll start with the defense. And, we did our post-game show. We've talked a lot about this already and done some of the numbers. I did the number game in that post-game show. It's here on the YouTube channel if you want to check that out. But, I don't know what other words you can say other than they just dismantled them. They just took it to them from the word go at the beginning of the game. It was very clear to me once the Browns got to 13 points that it was over. When it was 13-0, I was like, they're not like Arizona's not going to score 2 touchdowns. Like, that was my thought process. I mean, Clayton Tune, attempted 1 pass over 10 yards, 2 passes over 10 yards. One gets called back. And as he was attempting another, he was strip sacked and by Shelby Harris. And it was like they were allowing 0.6 yards per pass attempt, barely over a yard or play. Like I don't care if it's Arizona and a 5th-round rookie. You don't hold teams to that in the NFL. Like, I know they have injuries, but the Browns went out there and just absolutely manhandled them. This defensive line was absolutely insane. I want to pull up the defensive line stats, and then I'll let you guys say what you want to say about it a little bit. But I went at 25 total pressures, 7 sacks, 3 hits, 15 hurries, 2 batted balls. How many stop tackles? Oh, my God. The Browns had 30 stop tackles. There were the Cardinals ran 48 plays and the Browns had 30 stop tackles. Just take that for he was under pressure for Clayton Tune was under pressure for over 50% of his dropbacks. Myles Garrett was kind of, in terms of like the glamour stuff, he was almost an afterthought in this game because that's how good his teammates played. And a lot of his teammates' success had to do with his success. And Dalvin Tomlinson literally he was just mop-up duty, man. Dalvin was owning not friend of the show, but old friend Yodi Froholt. He was owning him pretty consistently all day. And whenever Miles or Zadarius and Ogbo as well were coming around, they would step up. And where last year you would just see him step up and go out and it'd be all that, Dalvin was there. Shelby Harris was really good in this game as well. Jordan Elliott continues to make plays. Man, I just don't give a shit that it's the 1-win Cardinals. You play who is on your schedule, and if you hold a team to 58 net yards, you need to be praised, and you need to be praised sufficiently. So, Casey, I know you're fired up, so I'll start with you, and we'll go to Nick. Just overall thoughts about the defense on Sunday.
Never apologize. Never. That's who you were scheduled to play. Did the Ravens apologize for playing us with Dorian Thompson-Robinson getting his first start? No. No, that's what you do to a 5th-round rookie getting his first start. If they set the record, they set their own record this year, 58 yards allowed. The record previously in the NFL for this season was 94, also held by the Browns. It's just this defense. It's putting it together consistently because they have these kind of efforts in them. Now it's impossible for us to ask them to do it back to back to back to back. But every so often they're just going to stonewall a team and they're not going to have a shot. They're just not going. You're not going to cross. What they get to their 40-yard line? Do they even get? You know what I mean? Do they get to the Browns 40? I don't know if they did.
I don't know that they crossed midfield.
Yeah, I mean that's what we're talking about. That's the kind of dominant effort we're talking about here, and it doesn't, when you have a defense that's doing that, you just can't waste those efforts, and the offense didn't, and key, that's how it works. This offense needs to get its legs under him. Defense kept getting the ball back to him, and they just worked things out. Next thing you know, 27-0, flawless victory.
You know what? People were really acting like the sky was falling at halftime. And I told everybody to breathe. And a friend of mine was like, don't jinx it. And, that sounds crazy considering that the score finished 27-0. But, Casey, you brought up Brandon Allen and Duck Hodges and our quarterback shaving 3 times in Denver because he couldn't get the offense going well. And just all of these times where it's like the Browns should win these games and they just don't. Right. And so when people are nitpicking or complaining or unhappy with these wins, I just suggest you go look at what happened when the Browns were supposed to be this better team and they walked down the field and they got their ass beat by a quarterback that is no longer in the league a season later. Right. So for me, I think about that and I'm like, look how far we've come. We are not only beating teams we're supposed to be, they are smashing teams they're supposed to be. And that is a tremendous step forward and just a statement about how far you've come. And I don't think I got to talk about this, but I wanted to highlight, obviously Dalvin Tomlinson was the star of the defensive line yesterday, but all of a sudden, Jordan Elliott's played back-to-back good games.
He's been good all year.
Yeah, he really has. Which is it's amazing what happens when guys get time to develop and you don't have a 3rd-round pick that is expected to immediately be this significant contributor. There's a few things here. Number one, Dalvin Tomlinson is on pace to completely shatter his career best in sacks. His best is 3.5, and he's on pace for 6.5. His best year of quarterback hits is 10. He's on pace for 15. By the way, Taven Bryan was your second leading sacker last year with 3. Dalvin Tomlinson already has 3 on the year.
And he's not your second leading sacker.
No, he's not. And my other favorite thing that I didn't get to bring up on the post-game show is now you have back-to-back weeks. Last week, it was Mo Hurst batting that ball and creating a turnover. This week, it was Shelby Harris causing the strip sack and causing a turnover. And it's just so exciting to see these guys that when the Browns added Mo Hurst and when the Browns added Shelby, like we were excited about Shelby Harris, but it wasn't this like hugely hyped move. And yet you've got these guys making this significant impact week in and week out. And I think both the additions of Hurst and Harris have been huge moves from Andrew Berry that mostly flew under the radar. And it's just like you start to look at the overall picture of what Barry's done and the additions he's made, and there is a lot to like. I mean, I don't know anybody else that picks up like a guy like Mo Hurst. We talked about before the season and said, well, could he reclaim where he was, a couple years ago, maybe? And it's like, I think you've gotten that and then some. And it's like, Shelby Harris, when he was signed, people were like, well, if he was really that good, he wouldn't have been a free agent at this point. I think
want to go to camp, man.
Sufficiently put that to bed. It's just, I love seeing moves like that aren't like the big, flashy, sexy moves that are still paying large dividends on a week in, week out basis. It's to go from what we had last year at defensive tackle to this year is crazy. And I could just play the game back and watch the defensive line. And that's what I'd watch the whole time because that's how much fun it is to watch.
I want to add something to what Nick just said, and I think it's an important thing to talk about is sometimes it's easy to give up on a player too early. Sometimes they don't show you anything and you just think they're dead on arrival. But we're to the point now where I'm starting to contemplate, should they think about extending Jordan Elliott? Should that be something that is on the agenda? Because before the season, I would have thought that was just lunacy. But after what he's shown you through the first 8 games, I think it's something that needs to be at least on the table, And I don't think it would be a huge signing, and he'd still just be a rotational piece. But you need that, Sure. And Andrew Berry has assembled a fantastic defensive tackle room. But let's be quite frank, he owed us this defensive tackle room after the last 2 years of what we watched, just hoping and praying someone would step up or they would sign someone late, and it just never happened. But what they've been able to put on the field this year is just what a difference it's made, man. What a difference it's made.
I'm looking at the number right here.
I just want to, because Casey wasn't with us at the time, but I remember when the Browns did those 2 little guarantees of Bryant and Elliott, and people were like, are we sure we should be guaranteeing Jordan Elliott this money? Like, because I think a lot of people had thought, he might not make the team, right? And now to go from that to I don't blame you, right? But you just said it, Casey, like maybe an extension. I mean, what a turnaround.
You're looking at a team that had 34 sacks in 17 games last year. They have nearly 30 sacks right now.
That's ridiculous.
I'm just saying. It depends on where you look. Like ESPN has them at 27 sacks this year so far, which like in 8 games, as opposed to 34 sacks in 17 games last year. And I misspoke too because I said that the leading sacker didn't have 3 sacks this year, or the second leading sacker is Dalvin Tomlinson with 3 sacks.
Oh, is it?
With 3.
Okay.
But then you have like 2.5, 2.5, 2, 2, 1.5, 1. You know what I mean? Like multiple guys at 2 and things like that. So like, no, I was wrong. That is the fact, but it comes with I got some comments I wanted to look at. This defense makes me human. I love that. That is hilarious. He said his wife told him that it was boring and he politely told her to zip it. I agree. You enjoy it.
Hi, Connie.
Connie's in there. I love it. Do people realize that Miles is not on the field every season? Yeah, man. That they are able to keep Myles Garrett fresh into the fourth quarter, and that has a lot to do with the way they are able to what this was. Yeah, man. I mean, Elliott had been terrible. Like, I mean, he legitimately had been terrible. Like, it was unplayable. And now he's looking at Jordan Elliott has 2.5 sacks. He's tied for third with Ogbo Okoronkwo right now in sacks, just in raw sack numbers. But he's really had another game where he gets a 66.8 overall grade, and it's just like he was unplayable. Now he's a solid, legitimate player that you're wondering, like you said, Casey, are you gonna bring him back? I mean, he's not gonna cost a lot of money because he's not like a superstar, but are you gonna just give him a couple more years and keep him here as a homegrown, talent sort of thing? And it's like, when you're with the rest of them, it makes sense. I did a short here on our YouTube over the summer about who was the biggest winner from the Zadarius Smith trade, because I argued that it wasn't Myles Garrett. I argued that it was Dalvin Tomlinson, and you can go back and you can see that little one minute clip that I made, and it's for exactly this reason. He succeeded a lot on Sunday and so far this year by making the quarterback unable to step up in the pocket. They can't just climb the pocket and escape the pocket when Myles is coming from the outside. They have been able to just go up and out and things like that, and just the tackles know they can just run the arc with Myles Garrett because there's nobody in the middle to do cleanup duty. And Dalvin's not just doing cleanup duty, but he is finding a lot of success in cleanup duty. He is there. Him, Shelby Harris, Mo Hurst, they're there. They're pushing the middle of the pocket. We're creating no easy answer for quarterbacks to escape. And when Myles is on his best, creating pressure and winning reps, but not getting there, and other guys are able to feast, it's just this chain reaction. And I just think the defensive tackle room, it was completely made over. Shelby Harris was absolutely a necessary signing because that put Jordan Elliott's role even smaller, and that smaller role, he is thriving in it. And so you made everybody better really on two signings, Dalvin and Shelby Harris. Obviously the Mo Hurst has been a really big signing because he's a really good rotational player, but those top two being able to do what they do, both of them can play the run and both of them can rush the passer. They're not one trick ponies like everybody tried to tell you. It made it to where everybody else's role was easier and smaller, and you're not putting Jordan Elliott out there to be a 8-sack guy. He can go get 4 or 5 sacks this year, and it'd be a very productive season for Jordan Elliott. And it's just because across the board, you're going to see it, because this is where we're at right now. I think you're going to see a ton of players have 6 or 7 sacks when the season ends. In terms of, you'll have Myles, he'll have his 18, 19 sacks, and and then there's going to be like some guys at 8, a bunch of guys at 8 and 7. Like, it's what I think it is. It's because they have such a rotation right now. And they do it against the run too, but it's the pass rush is the sexy part, right? That's the sexy part. It's like they've got this great rotation across the board where it's just like, hey, Myles, you're the best player at your position in the NFL, but like, take this series off. Like Ogbo, Zadarius, they'll play, and Alex Wright, when he's healthy, has played relatively.
Isaiah McGuire
had a pressure that his pressure led to Sione Taki's interception on Sunday. It's just across the board. That defensive line, it makes we've got really good defensive backs, but their jobs are so much easier because they only have to hold coverage for like 2 seconds. That's it. They don't have to run. They don't have to hold coverage for 4 or 5 seconds, because if it's 4 or 5 seconds, the quarterback still has the ball. He's on the ground. And it's just been, I don't know, man, like you can't say enough. And it's like, I can't say anything that hasn't already been said by other podcasts and by us on here and all this stuff about this defense. But being able to make a quarterback uncomfortable from the word go every week. And obviously they've had their games where they haven't been as good, but being able to make a quarterback uncomfortable and have lockdown corners. Denzel Ward's playing out of his mind. Martin Emerson's playing out of his mind. Cam Mitchell went on IR. I don't even know when the hell he got hurt, but he had a 90.4 coverage grade.
He looked great.
He came up weird after that tackle. Like, it looked like his back, like he just twisted kind of weird. And like, he got up, right? But it just seemed awkward, and I'm assuming that's when it happened. But I mean, hats off to him that the cornerback factory looks like it's just continuing here in Browns land.
I've done a mock. I haven't done a full 7 mock yet, but I do not see them stop. I do not see them anytime soon stop drafting a corner every year. I think they're going to continue to draft a corner every year.
Why would you?
If Andrew Berry, yeah, well, I mean, you go look at him. You go look at, and obviously they didn't draft Denzel Ward, but Andrew Berry was here.
Mm-hmm. And I saw that with Mitchell hurt, like AJ Green might be elevated, and I'm like, oh, I like AJ Green. That's a player that's been a contributor for the Browns before. I mean, he's not stellar, but he's certainly not anybody that I'm going to be like, well, that's a liability on the field.
Yeah.
Like, just
I mean, and you drafted Greg Newsome, and you've drafted Martin Emerson, and you've drafted Cam Mitchell now, and it's just like, just keep drafting them, man. Just keep drafting them. And you got Grant Delpit, and you've drafted, some safeties, and Richard LeCounte doesn't work out, but it's I don't know. This defense is really freaking good. And the thing was, they didn't even run all that much complex of coverages or anything like that. They play on both sides of the ball. Their play calling was pretty vanilla, man. It was pretty plain and boring. But they didn't just think they could roll their helmet out. They showed up and played their ass off instead of just thinking they thought they could just show up to the Colts and it was going to be nothing. They did. The defense did, at least. I think the defense was like, it's Gardner Minshew. We'll put him under pressure. It'll be perfectly fine. Ends up being kind of a bit of an issue there for them. And obviously they still win, but they give up 38 points. And it's just like, when this team's on, they will cause issues for anybody. So if this offense can take the steps forward that it started to, this is a contending team, and we're going to find out a lot about them on Sunday.
My last favorite stat is I saw that Ward and Emerson are both in the top 5 of the lowest passer rating allowed when targeted, which is, I mean, nuts, because it's like even when the pressure isn't getting to the quarterback, our corners are still just blanketing these guys. I understand there's a little bit of a caveat, and obviously you've had some matchups against subpar quarterbacks. I get that, but like I said, we've seen quarterbacks of that caliber, for whatever reason, torch the Browns defense when they have no business doing so. So when you can dominate opponents like that, I'm going to enjoy every second of it, because it has been such a rarity. And I think this could be the beginning of the defense really just being this unit that you just say year in and year out, like, this is going to be a unit you can rely on. And they may not, they're going to go up and down. I'm sure that's going to happen. But if you can just start to get consistent, reliable, like guys you draft in the defense know, like, this is an ass-kicking group with high expectations. Like, I think that's a huge step forward for the team as a whole.
They had 3 players that all had 4 pressures on Sunday, as an example. Like Ogbo Okoronkwo was one. And you know what the best part about that is? None of them are named Myles Garrett.
Wow.
I think that feeds into what Nick just said, though. I think that now this is the expectation. Is before they were showing you what they could do, but like now they have set a bar, and this is the expectation. And when you have someone like Schwartz dialing everything up, man, that's going to be preached week in and week out. They were up for the challenge this week, and they have an even bigger challenge coming in Baltimore. And this is kind of weird, though, because we had that game against Tennessee where it's kind of similar as far as the defense goes, and then they kind of got humbled a little bit against Tennessee, and so against Baltimore in the following game. So to have that same situation present itself to where you played such a stellar game, and now you got to go to Baltimore and face just what is, quite frankly, a different animal than what you see in the rest of the league when you're playing a team like Baltimore. Yeah,
and it's like, you look at their offensive output and you thought that, like, they attacked last week from all over the field. Lamar doesn't even throw for 200 yards in that game, and they put up 39 points. Like, that's what they're capable of. It's just a well-run, like Todd Monken. I didn't think it was going to work. I'm sorry. Todd Monken and that offense are in that defense too. I mean, They're as complete of a team. Them coming in right now feels like when what San Fran was when they were coming. Well, I guess we're going to Baltimore, but when San Fran was coming to town, that is how they were viewed across the league and how well they were playing is how I feel about Baltimore. Like they're playing. Like I think Baltimore right now is the best team in the NFL. I think they're playing like the best team in the NFL. So if you're a contender, because if you lose this game, the division's gone, and that's okay. You can still make the playoffs. I'm not worried if they lose this game, it's not over. But like if you want to win the division, you got to go into Baltimore. Mm-hmm. You got to do that. So
they have to.
Real quick, we'll talk about the offense and Deshaun Watson. There's not really a lot to say about the offense, to be completely honest, because there's a couple of things, but again, they just kind of did what they had to do to get some points on the board, win the game, and get out of there without putting too much on film. I've said this before, so I'll just say it. I really felt good about Sunday when I left it. It wasn't 400 yards. It wasn't like what CJ Stroud's been doing in Houston or anything like that. That's awesome. But it was CJ is balling. CJ Stroud is absolutely, I love, and me as an Ohio State guy and as a CJ Stroud QB1 from the draft guy, I'm very happy with that. So, but what Watson did is that first deep pass, I felt like, is he 100% healthy? I don't know necessarily, because there's still some things that he didn't really do. Like he only threw like 3 passes over the mid, like in the intermediate. Now he completed all 3 of them. And I'm not saying that like he was afraid to do them or he couldn't do them or anything like that. He just really didn't. So that question is still kind of out there about the intermediate throws and like, is there any limitations from that? Because I'm not saying that there is, but like that is a question that still remains about Watson. But it just felt like he was a little rusty, and I know people hate that word when he came out, but he hadn't played in over a month, and it looked like he needed a few series to kind of get his feet under him. I thought there was enough here. Are you ready for this? I thought he had plenty of zip on the ball.
Zip.
I hate it. I hate it so much because we talked about this on this show, and I'm like, I don't give a shit what any reporter says in practice.
Yeah.
But I did say what I care about is what he does on Sunday on the field, and there was zip behind those passes. It was night and day from what it was in Indy when it was clear that he shouldn't have been out there. In this game, it was clear that he was healthy enough to play. That was the first and foremost important thing. His deep ball was good. That is something we really have not seen since he's been in Cleveland, outside of like 2 or 3 throws here and there. And he made, and the Marquise Goodwin almost had a couple of them. He gets hit in the back, things like that. But he didn't turn the ball over. He protected it. They were a couple of inches from dropping 30 points because Hopkins just missed that field goal. He threw some nice deep balls. He looked better. He navigated the pocket well. I thought he stepped up and moved around in there when there was some chaos. I thought there were some good things there. I thought his eyes were not as bad as they have been, and he did not seem antsy. That was the biggest thing. Once he settled in, he wasn't bouncing around trying to bail pockets, and I just think he used his legs really appropriately. And I just thought it was a good game and a step in the right direction. There's still more meat on the bone, but it's definitely what we needed to see. We needed to see that.
I think at this point I've recognized the pattern. In Cincinnati, Watson was really tight in the first half and wasn't what I would call good in the second half, but he was better. In Tennessee, Watson started out really tight, took a hit, he loosened up a little bit, built some confidence. All of a sudden, he's slinging the ball. Here again, you start out, a bunch of these short throws aren't completed, and then all of a sudden he takes a hit, gets a little bit of momentum, a little bit of confidence, and then you see the guy start slinging the ball down the field. I think Deshaun is, I think just the brass tacks of it is he is a very he's a player that relies on confidence. He's a player that builds momentum. He's going to get better throughout the game as time goes on, and I expect him to be better earlier as he starts to stack starts together, because it's really, I mean, you play your best game, you miss over a month, right? And then you come back. And so, but at least now we've seen this process and this pattern repeatedly. So now I'm saying, okay, if Deshaun doesn't start good, I can still believe that he's going to get better as the game goes on. And maybe he'll just get to a point, and I'm hoping he gets to a point where he just feels confident to begin with. And then all of a sudden you've got the Deshaun that you saw the last time he played a full season in Houston, that is just slinging the ball all the time, not throwing picks. This was the first time the offense did not turn the ball over in a game this year.
Hallelujah.
That's a huge step. Kevin Stefanski noted that in the post game celebration. He hates turnovers. I mean, who doesn't? But still,
he brought it up right away, though. He was right away. He was like, "Listen."
Yeah, and you know what? It's a lot easier to talk about Zip after a win and after you see Deshaun throw. I mean, he threw two of the best passes that he has as a Brown. That pass to Amari Cooper is, in my opinion, the best pass he's thrown as a Brown. There's a lot to like. There's obviously a lot more to go and improve upon, but I'm definitely feeling good. What say you, Casey?
Well, it all comes down because we're all like, Zip Gate. We're all waiting to see what it looks like. And it's his shoulder. Everybody's, it's the functionality of it. It's not just can he drive the ball, but did he have to compensate his biomechanics to make it happen? Was he going to have to compensate to throw it? Because you saw that Indy game, man, he was shot putting the ball.
Yeah.
That's all gone. It looked very natural. Now, it worked the exact opposite of what we're used to seeing. Usually a quarterback gets going with the short stuff to intermediate, and then the long stuff opens up. It seemed to go in reverse order, where the short stuff, those 5-yard stick routes just weren't there for whatever reason. It seemed like his footwork was a little off. He was a little off balance. I think that comes over time. The intermediate stuff, he didn't take a lot of shots like Jacob noted over the intermediate, but when he did, he connected. But his deep ball didn't look good. It was beautiful, pretty. Just like when he comes to the back of his drop and steps up and lets that launch towards Amari, that last one, you couldn't have thrown a better ball. It'd be physically impossible to throw a better ball. And I think you could feel good about that, and now the deep passes to Marquise Goodwin, those are catchable balls. You'd like to see him come down with them, but difficult circumstances. First one is a PI. Second one, he takes a shot to the back of the head. You could tell we're probably not going to see him again for weeks.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many more deep shots they're going to get without a true speedster. I mean, Amari can break open usually on double moves and such. We might see a little more involvement of Cedric Tillman down the field. But you have to feel encouraged with what you saw. Like we were all holding our, like after the Tennessee game, we thought we took the step, and it was like, all right, now this thing opens up. And then all of a sudden there's this long pause. We don't know what's going on. There's the shrouded in mystery. We have no idea. To see it come out, and I believe he worked a fair amount of rust off, which is good because next week's going to be a very hostile environment. It was good that he was able to get this game. Everything was easy. They didn't have to unload the playbook. I will say that fake reverse that they ran twice, which I think would have worked the second time. I think that reverse would have been there. But I don't know if they break it out again this week, but that's coming down the line. They've showed it a few times now, and it looks like it's had some promise. But overall, man,
when they didn't run it.
Yeah, man, they could have had it, I think. But neither here nor there. I think that you should be encouraged by what you saw from Deshaun Watson. But now we're in this exact same spot after the Tennessee game. Now we've shown that. Now we need to take that step. That step still needs to happen. And to Nick's point, he's often had issues in first quarters of games. Even way back in Houston, when you watch this Houston tape, the defense might do something to him early in games, and it would take him a second to figure it out. But he would always figure it out, and he would get better as the game went along. So that just might be part of his DNA. That must, it might just be sputtering for the first quarter, but then he starts to get his footing. And when he starts to let it go, man, he's super effective. And he was his eyes are key to me. He was seeing the game, and that's because early in the season, I didn't feel like he was. I feel like he was looking in the wrong areas, not finding answers. You were seeing him find answers and take the easy stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. And his ability to use his legs to open things up, because he was going through his progressions, not finding something and hitting the check down. But he wasn't just hitting the check down. He would threaten that line of scrimmage and hold the linebacker to give his running back a running start. And he could have got those first downs with his legs, but you're more important than that, my man. Let that dude do the leg work. don't put yourself any more risk than you absolutely have to, especially for these next few weeks. Because every time he takes a hit, I'm sure we're going to be like kind of holding our breath. Are we good? Are we good?
Yeah.
So like I like everything the way it came together, and I'm super encouraged to see where they're going to be able to take this next week.
But there was one really good moment when Deshaun could have run it, but he passed to Jerome Ford, who was basically parallel to him. And I loved that from him. I was like, let Jerome go do his thing. You just chill, Deshaun. Your work is done here. Like, I love that from him. Learn from it. You're taking hits. You got to limit. Like, obviously, you're going to take some. Deshaun uses his legs. He said himself, his legs are a part of his game. I get that. But you got to limit it as much as possible.
Yeah, Josh's comment, I think, is pretty interesting. They were jacked up for San Francisco and enjoying them going into Indy. This Sunday, they just straight kicked the shitty team's ass. So stay high, but don't emotionally drain yourself with Baltimore. Yeah, that's fair. It's a fair point. I think it's a fair point.
I don't know if you guys saw Juan Thornhill's comment, but he said that they got punched in the mouth and they were kind of feeling themselves a little bit. They got punched in the mouth and they needed that. And so I was like, well, okay, if Juan Thornhill says so, then I'm rolling with it.
Give me more PR Strong, you dickheads.
I just want to shout out to our illegal ham friends.
Illegal ham. Yeah, I do too. That was a big important part, Connie. That Deshaun and Amari came up with that shot play, and that's Andrew Spade said it from the OBR, said it on Twitter, and I thought he said like that's franchise quarterback stuff. So seeing that stuff start to happen in a positive nature, it gives you hope for what it can become. And normally, we do not get political on this show. But I will say, based on what's happening right now in the state of Ohio, I'm even more proud to be from Ohio right now, based on what's going on. So we'll say that. All right, let's do midseason awards. So let's do midseason awards for the team, and probably end up taking us the rest of the show, I'd say. So I'll start with you, Casey. Let's start with we'll do MVP last. So let's go biggest surprise on offense. So we'll go around Casey, Nick, me. We'll go around and then we'll reverse order on the next one. Biggest surprise on the offense.
DeJuan Jones.
Yeah,
we're talking about a rookie who's less than one half into his first game, thrust into a starting role that he wasn't supposed to be in. Right into the deep water. You're facing Sam Hubbard. Next week, you're facing TJ Watt, and it just hasn't stopped. And he's met the challenge week in and week out. We never come out of a game going, man, he's got to work on this. Man, he needs to get no, man, he belongs. He belonged right away. And he's someone that this team can build around at that position. So I think DeJuan Jones needs to get some flowers.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go a little off the beaten path here. Nick Harris. Hello, fullback number one.
He's putting him in motion, dude. Like, it's great.
He's going to
catch a touchdown. He's going to catch it. That's going to happen.
He is. He absolutely is. And I'm because like Kendall Lamb style, right? Against Tennessee, if memory serves. The Browns, Kevin Stefanski loves that fullback position, right? And they've just put Nick Harris there, and he's blocking his ass off. I watch him, and he's a great. I mean, he loves the contact. He follows.
He's a good athlete.
Yeah, he is. And you know what? I love the way that they have found a role for him, because keep in mind, before he tore his ACL, we were expecting him to be the starting center, right? Mm-hmm. And so I love it from him that Nick has accepted that this is his role right now. He's embraced it and he's doing it well. I love it. And it adds another, like, you see Nick Harris on the field and you're like, I love that. It's like, we're lining Nick Harris up here, and good luck stopping that, because I'm not standing in front of Nick Harris when he's charging at me downhill. So props to him, man. I love that.
He played 18 snaps this week.
That's significant.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, he was the team's 8th highest graded offensive player in his. But the one thing is, I would diversify it a little bit more, because he played 18 snaps and 15 of them were run plays. So maybe which some of that came at the end of the game too. So
yeah,
at some point you want to diversify that so that it's not so, I don't know, not so obvious what it is that you're trying to say. So biggest surprise, I came out here and I did this to myself. Like I wasn't going to be prepared. I was like, hey guys, like let's do biggest surprise on offense. And then now I'm stalling because you took the good ones. Here's the bad thing, because he's not he's hurt now. But I really thought Jed was playing well. I really thought, and he's going to miss about 4 to 6 weeks or so. But I think the last month or so, I mean, Jed ended up being their highest graded run blocker.
That is a great surprise, though. Like
I don't know that he's ever been that. I don't know that he's ever finished a game as their best run blocker according to any metric. You know what I mean? Like, and so I really wanted to give him some flowers through the first half of the season, just because I really think he gets a lot of hate, and a lot of it he there's quite a bit of it he deserves, but sometimes I think it goes too far. And I would say, I think it was probably San Fran. Yeah, it was about the last month. Yeah, it was right out. Yeah, coming out of the bye. He was playing really good football. He got injured, played through it, still was playing really well. It broke my heart to see him, crying like that on the field and whatnot. I'm stoked that he could come back though. Like that's awesome. That is great, because I thought he was done. But I'll give him some flowers. I think he's played a really good month of football.
I'm glad you brought him up, because it's such a kick to the dick, man. Like, Jed's finally putting the pieces together, and you see that, like, especially the effort. Like, to me, that's the thing that jumped out, is that you saw more consistent effort from Jedrick. And I think that's like why the narrative around him could turn negative, because Pete, you can see that, right? When somebody's not given the full, but it really felt like the switch flipped for Jed. And so at least it's not for the whole year, because then you'd be down both your tackles. But I just feel like, I still think Jed could put it together here. And I still think, despite a lot of the narrative about him, that he could be your long-term left tackle. He could play himself into that. So I'm glad for him, because if you're looking at a playoff run, if you're looking at a playoff berth, you're going to need Jed to be there, because I'm not so sure. James Hudson, we'll see. I'd like to. I know we're just kind of cutting in. What do you guys think about, where do the Browns go from here while Jed's out?
Yuck.
Okay.
Well, it's Hudson. I mean, if Hudson doesn't work out, the question is, do you kick out Batonio? Because then you could put Nick at center and kick Pochich out to guard. But those are the options you don't want to have to get into. You want Hudson just to work. But at the end of the day, you got to get your best 5 on the field, however that looks. So, and Hudson's going to get 2 tests right off the rip, man. Baltimore and Pittsburgh are going to test him. So we're going to find out real quick.
It's going to be Hudson, whether it works or not. It's going to be Hudson at least for the next 2 games, I think. Okay. And they've got some guys on the practice squad that have been there, and some guys they've claimed and moved up to the active roster and some things like that. Not really any names that you really know or that credible or are great choices. Really, you should just hope Hudson can be serviceable. That's the best option for them, is if he can figure it out. Like, listen, DeJuan Jones, he stepped up to the challenge. And I like Alex Leatherwood, but he's been on the practice squad, and other dudes have been added to the practice squad and active roster over him, and that should tell you something. So if Leatherwood's going to be, if Leatherwood's going to get there, it's not right now, and they've made it obvious by what they've done. So let's go. Biggest surprise on defense. I'll start. We'll go in reverse order here. It's Jordan Elliott. There is absolutely no other way to cut it that it's Jordan Elliott. Like, I'm going to bring up here, because I always find it fascinating to do some of these things. And I just look at, and I know these aren't the PFF grades are not the be all end all of everything, but with Jordan Elliott, I really think it tells the story of how significantly better he is. Because you're looking at his pass rush grade. The highest he had ever gotten was a 59. He's up in the 60s now. He came in last year, the previous 2 years to this, or no, this is a really good one here. So in his rookie year, he played 185 snaps, pass rush snaps. He had 185 pass rush snaps as a rookie, and had 4 pressures. He had 4 pressures. He's got 3 sacks right now. You know what I'm saying? Or 2.5, whatever it is. He's almost got as many sacks as he did pressures, and he's only had 95 pass rush snaps this year. It's like he is out there, and he's actually, the thing is that's I thought has been really impressive is he's playing decent run defense. I mean, he just get blown off the line against the run, and he is not a liability. The thing is, he was a liability in every facet for the previous 3 years. He is a solid rotational player where if, let's say, Dalvin gets hurt for a game and you got to give Jordan Elliott his snaps. Going into this year, you would have said, no, that they need more depth. But right now, if he started a game, Jordan Elliott, yeah, okay. I think you can get by with a game of him. Like if Dalvin or Shelby Harris are hurt or something like that, and you need him to take some more snaps and things like that. Like, and I love Maurice Hurst, and I know Josh has thrown the ring in there, but for me, it's Jordan Elliott because he is popping on film. He is making 2 or 3 plays a game where you're like, oh shit, that was Jordan Elliott. And I don't know that he did that over a course of 3 or 4 games last year or the year before. But every game, even if he's not getting a sack, he's getting pressure. He's holding the line. He's anchoring a lot better than he ever has against the run. And it's just like he makes 2 or 3 plays, whereas in previous years, he maybe made 5 to 10 good plays all year, it felt like. And now he's making 2 or 3 a game. And it's just, for me, it's just been so night and day, even though there's a lot of other great stories on this defense. He got a lot of shit for me for a long, long time. Even an article when I said they needed to move on from him before free agency. I wrote that before free agency. And here we are where I love eating my words when it comes to feeling bad about a Browns player and then being wrong, thinking that he's bad and then he improves. So for me, it's Jordan Elliott because it's just such a dramatic change.
I am going to go with Josh, and I'm going to say it's Mo Hurst because you're talking about a guy whose best season was in 2018, right? That's 5 years ago. And a guy who has had injury issues and hasn't really played a significant amount of season since 2020. Right. So here we are 3 years later, and Mo Hurst is on pace for the most tackles he's ever had as a professional, the most assisted tackles he's ever had as a professional. He's already had an interception. And I just think you're seeing a guy who's being disruptive on a weekly basis. And you did not sign Mo Hurst to, I don't think even Andrew Berry thought that Mo would play as well as he has thus far. It hasn't all been perfect, but I just think you're getting such a significant contribution from a guy that at the beginning of the season, you're saying, well, it'd be a really cool story if he made the team. You haven't seen a healthy Mo Hurst in a couple of years, and his rookie season was truly his best one. So, you're 5 years later, and all of a sudden you're looking at a career revival for Mo Hurst. That's what he's on pace for if he continues at this rate, because he's going to be able to go into contract negotiations for whoever next year and say, if he continues on this pace and say, I just had my most tackles ever. I had my most assisted tackles ever. I had an interception. He only has half a sack, which feels wrong to me. I feel like he's been more significant in the pressures. I don't have that stat up, but that's a guy that's just making a difference on a weekly basis. And I love those stories, like between Jordan Elliott and Mo Hurst. It's awesome.
Yep.
And I love the belly rub. Let's
what a celebration.
That's chef's kiss. I'm gonna go with the fullback of the defense, man. Give me Sione Taki. Give me a guy that I didn't even think was going to be able to start the year based on when he had his injury, and you would never know that he had the surgery. You would, like the way he's attacked this season, and he doesn't get the pub. He's not a big stat guy. He's out there doing the Lord's work. He is stopping the run. He's out there just destroying blockers, and he's the attitude of the defense. Like you bring a guy like that on the field, and he's there to put an end to stuff, and that's what Taki does. And he got his hands on a ball, man. My man got an interception. Like, get him some love.
It's a nice pick too.
Yes, it was. Yeah, because that dude was a pass rusher in college. Like to see his evolution as an off-ball linebacker, how tough he is, and he has a smaller role. There was an uptick in it this week. If you notice, JOK played less snaps, and as a consequence, Talkie got on the field more. But his role is starting to expand a little. I don't think it'll expand much more than it is. But what he does, he's so effective, and he brings an attitude to that defense and a physicality that I definitely appreciate. And I don't know if he'd even be able to get back to the level that he was at last year when he suffered that injury. And it just happened so late in the year. I almost wrote it off like, well, he's not going to be much of a factor next year. And he's exactly who he was last year already. So, Sion Talkie, he gets my vote.
You thought by now maybe he was going to start playing?
Yeah.
Like about now is probably when I thought he would start playing. And then like when both him and Walker were not going on like the pup at the beginning of camp and stuff, I was like, yeah, oh, okay, whatever. And then like they go out there from the word jump, both of them, but especially Talkie, it was great. So, all right, let's go offensive MVP. We'll start with you, Casey. We'll go back around the horn. So the offensive MVP or best player on offense, whatever it is you want to call it.
Coop.
Oh God.
Coop. Yeah. It's Amari Cooper, man. That dude is set your clocks. That dude's going to be where he needs to be when he's supposed to be there. He's money. You can count on him week in and week out. He's essentially quarterback proof, but you don't see that at wide receiver very often. You know, he's the dude, man. And he doesn't bring any extra baggage. We're not worrying about any of his attitude. We're not having to. You don't ever hear anything about him off the field. You can barely even picture what his voice sounds like. You know what I mean?
I don't know what it sounds like.
That dude is there to work. You know, he's the wide receiver version of Nick Chubb. They've somehow found two unicorns. But Amari Cooper, man, he's still doing it. And he had such a great year last year. But see, as soon as the season was over, you're hearing the talk. Well, do the Browns need to get a number one? Do they need to get better? It's like that dude is solid as solid gets. He's perfect for this team. He's exactly what they need. And I kind of want to rewind to something that happened like 20 minutes ago when him and Watson drew up that play on the sidelines. Mm-hmm. People were like automatically going to where like, oh, Deshaun Watson's calling his own plays and he's doing this to like override Stefanski. No. Him and Coop came up with the concept on the sidelines. Yeah. They went to Stefanski with said concept, and Stefanski goes, hell yeah, let's try that. And it worked.
It worked.
Yeah. You can do that because you can trust a guy like Amari Cooper to listen to what he's saying. He's seen a ton of football. He's not going to say shit out of turn just to get himself the football. Like, he's about the team. He's that dude. Amari Cooper gets my vote, offensive MVP.
Mr. Carnes?
Oh. I don't care that it's not a player. My offensive MVP is Kevin Stefanski. That guy has kept this offense chugging and running despite practice squad quarterback play, despite losing your tackle, despite losing another tackle, your best running back in the league, despite just every chart. The Browns quarterbacks are in the bottom left basement tier of everything. They're 5-3. The offense has been afloat. It's been good enough. They've found ways to win. They've found ways to overcome. I can't say enough about the job that I do believe. There's been people that have said that this is Kevin Stefanski's best coaching job. I believe when you look at what they have overcome to get to this point, because the season could have gone off the rails a million different ways. We've seen it so many times, right? Kevin Stefanski has the most wins of a Browns coach since Bill Belichick. He's going to pass him at some point. I know Bill wasn't here for.
Are you commenting on the show that you're in?
Damn straight I am. Multitasking over here, baby.
I'm sorry. I just saw it pop up in the comments. I was like, what are you doing?
Kevin's my MVP. I feel like the ability to go from PJ Walker to Sean and just adapt your offense and figure out how to keep this thing afloat despite all that they have dealt with injury-wise is phenomenal. And I want to give Stefanski all of the credit that I can. I don't know many teams that is honestly, that is some Mike Tomlin winning with Duck Hodges stuff. That's what that is. Honestly, They just find ways to win. I don't care how you're winning. I honestly don't. What matters at the end of the season is how many wins did you get. Kevin Stefanski has them right there in playoff contention at the most pivotal point of the season. If I told you that Deshaun Watson would miss a month and the Browns would be 5-3, I wouldn't believe you. I wouldn't believe me if I told it doesn't make sense. But you're 5-3.
I might believe you because Nick Chubb's the man, right? And he could carry this offense in the absence of Deshaun Watson, right?
But there's no Nick Chubb.
Huh?
You got a game and a quarter of Nick Chubb, really, which is I miss Nick Chubb, man.
Yeah, we all do, man. We all do.
It's unbelievable. I don't know how. I don't know how he did it.
Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Are you ready for this?
Yes.
It's fucking D-Hop.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Day, baby. Like, are you kidding me? Dude came in with a 50% career completion percentage or make percentage, whatever you want to call it, over 50. He has not missed. His miss was under 50, wasn't it? Was his miss?
48.
It was 40. So he hasn't missed. He was 15 of 30 coming into this year, set a record for having the most games in NFL history with the most consecutive games with a 50-yard field goal, and like pretty single-handedly did a lot of the and pun intended legwork against the 49ers. And we have seen that now multiple times where it's just like, they're like, hey, Kevin it is clear. Yeah, man, extensions all around. It is clear that he is more comfortable kicking this year. And it's not just because of it's not like he changed his philosophy on analytics. He can trust his kicker. And if they're in a position, especially early in the game, it is very clear early in the game, Kevin's like, I will take whatever points I can get, and we will worry about some of those decisions as the situations call for it. And, that 49ers game, as I just said, that's mostly on Hopkins. The offense wasn't very good. They were okay and they were getting it in range. And then bam, there he goes. He's making a kick. The one he misses, so he's got 3 misses all year. He missed it by like a foot. Like he barely, I couldn't even tell he missed it for sure until I saw the ref give it a nope, he missed it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's like, so where are you? Like, this is why I want to say he's the offensive MVP, right? Where would you be with Cade York? Would you be 5? You wouldn't be 5-3.
No, you'd be 2-6.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, you would at least at best be 3-5, probably. I think D-Hop and what he has done has added 2 wins over what last year's kicking situation was. And for that reason, I'm putting him as my offensive MVP. So real quick, we're going to go back around the horn, do defensive MVP as we wrap this thing up. What are you doing? What are we doing?
I have no idea.
I'm sorry. I just need. I'm 11 hours late. 11 hours late, and I just want to say, oh, are we still there?
Oh, yeah.
We are there. Okay. I'm 11 hours late, and I got to. Casey made a great point today, and I finally retweeted it. But Kevin Stefanski is a lot closer to getting extended than he is to getting fired. This is a great tweet, Casey. I'm 11 hours late, but I finally retweeted it, and I hope the message is spread because you're right. I still can't believe the job Stefanski's done, and I had to share it because you're just in your bag this morning, and you gotta give Casey flowers.
I appreciate that.
Defense.
I had to defend him yesterday.
Yeah,
like I had to defend him. I had to listen the most ridiculous caller I've ever heard on Sports for CLE. It was amazing, but like there's a
I need to go back and see
believe
it.
that. There's a large segment that don't believe that. They think he's about to be fired at any moment. And I don't know how to break it to you. He's way closer to getting extended than he is getting his walking papers. So. Yep.
He's 5-3. He has the 3rd highest winning percentage after a loss since 1970. The other 2 guys, Hall of Fame.
Is that good?
One of them, Sean Madden.
Huh. Maybe I heard of that guy.
I heard of him. I heard of him too. Hey,
Yeah.
I just saw Cleveology just tweeted that if issue 2 passes in Ohio, that we should sign Josh Gordon to a 1-day contract to celebrate. That's the legal marijuana in the state of Ohio for anybody that is asking. But it is, by the way, Athens continues to be Athens and continues to be OU, as the votes from Athens that are tallied so far are 75% yes on issue 2. And just by driving and walking around when I'm at work, the smells I smell, that is confirmed. Anyway, it tracks. Yeah, it checks out. Defensive MVP. Let's do defensive MVP not named Myles Garrett, because that's
fair.
That's
fair.
Okay. Yeah, that is fair.
Yeah.
Just to kind of, because he's been, I think right now he's the defensive player of the year. I vehemently, and I've never said that. I've said he'll push for it, but I've never thought this late in the year that he was actually doing it. And I really do believe he is doing it. And a lot of that stuff is some of those pass rush metrics that don't always show up in the stats, but he's just, anyway. So I'll go Martin Emerson.
I knew it. You sandbagging son of a bitch.
I don't think most everybody that follows me at least a little bit is probably like, yeah, no, we know you're going to say Martin Emerson. Denzel has been really, really good too, and he's really bounced back from a little bit of a down year last year, in my opinion. But Martin Emerson in year 2, there is no sophomore slump. He is taking massive steps forward. He's not perfect. He's not Darrelle Revis. There's going to be some matchups where he renders some catches and some things like that. But there is not a wide receiver type that I fear him covering. He's big and he's physical, so I'm not worried about those big physical maulers getting it over on him. And he's a really good athlete. He's faster than you think he is. So I'm not worried about, obviously like a Tyreek Hill running a go route and single coverage is probably going to beat him. But there is not a situation where I'm like, oh, he's not equipped to play that type of wide receiver. And because of that, I really think Martin Emerson is growing into the best corner on this roster. I think that's where he is. He's not there, but I think that's where he's headed. And right now, for me, he's my midseason defensive MVP, not named Myles Garrett.
3rd round pick, by the way. Just awesome.
Traded back to get him too, just so we're clear.
No biggie. I'm going to keep giving him flowers. I can't stop giving him flowers. Dalvin Tomlinson. When you signed Dalvin Tomlinson, you said, we need a stud defensive tackle to come in here and be the anchor that we were sorely missing last year. And I would say Dalvin has been every bit of that you could ask for him to be. And it is amazing. Jacob, you were saying like Miles basically chased Clayton Tune into Dalvin Tomlinson's arms yesterday, which is awesome to see a defensive tackle be able to clean up things like that. I don't know that I've ever seen a Browns defensive tackle that is creating sacks and pressures like Dalvin. If I'm forgetting someone, I'm sorry, but I don't think I'm being recency biased here. I just feel like Dalvin has been, when you went out and you handed a big contract to a defensive tackle, Dalvin's been every bit of that. We've seen so many free agents come here and just not be up to the hope that they were at. And like I said, I looked up the stats this morning. Dalvin's is on pace to double his career sack best in a season and increased by 50% his total quarterback hits. He's a guy that, like we talked about, Jacob was saying he was told he was only a 2-down player. That's a guy that's showing you he's a 3-down defensive tackle, and that's why you paid him. And he's being the stud you paid him to be. I just think it's amazing, because last year we said, oh, well, we've got the defensive ends. And for a while, it was, even when you had Jadeveon Clowney, right? You still had that season where he and Miles were both, I think Jadeveon had 9.5 sacks or 9 sacks that season. Mm-hmm. But anyway, you were saying, well, if we could just get something from the defensive tackles, you are now. And Dalvin Tomlinson is the center and the anchor of that room. And I love it. I can't stop. Credit him. More Infinity Gauntlets.
Gentlemen, I am nothing if I'm not a man of the people. And Josh, I hear you, and I agree. This Jim Schwartz, man, like, can you imagine a dude who's made more of a difference on this defense than Jim Schwartz coming here with it swinging by his knees and just going into that room. And now the whole team, like the effort, the excitement, the charisma they're playing with, I mean, it's palpable. You can see it. This defense is mostly the same cast of characters. They did revamp some rooms, but a lot of these stalwarts were there. And to see them get to play with this kind of excitement, to see like him just putting players in the best position to succeed. This was the perfect signing. This was the signing. We didn't. I felt good about it when they named Jim Schwartz defensive coordinator. I didn't think they were going. I didn't think they'd get him, to be honest. So when they did, I'm like, okay. I didn't understand the gravity of it at the time, of what it actually meant for him, and to have this at his disposal, to have this talent in front of him, and what he's been able to get. Like, we've had 3 games where teams can't even score touchdowns against this defense. We just saw the first shutout. Now, the last shutout was because of a blizzard. Like, it's been 30 years since they legitimately just shut someone out because they could not score at any point, a single point. And they're 58 total yards. Man, that sounds made up. If I would have told you that, no, there was no threat. Jim Schwartz is that dude, man. Like, he's worthy of every meme. He's made such a difference. I just hope that they're able to keep him in Cleveland for as long as possible. And the most exciting thing for me is to hear that the dude does not want to be a head coach, because if he did want to be a head coach, there would be a line out the door to pick him up right now based on what he's been able to do with this group. So Jim Schwartz, defensive MVP, probably team MVP.
Yeah, they can poach Lou Anarumo from Cincinnati. By all means, take that guy and make him a head coach somewhere. But Jim Schwartz doesn't want to be a head coach. We will happily keep him in Cleveland. Just like Bill Callahan, honestly. Those guys are too, maybe they're a little longer in the tooth, and they were just happy where they are. They don't want the stressful experience of being Kevin Stefanski. Good. Let's keep everybody together. Let's keep the band together, get some continuity, some consistency, a true foundation to build off of coaching. And I know Bubba Ventrone wants to be a coach, and that'll probably happen one day as well, assuming this regime is that successful. But I love that point, Casey. You know what? Both of our coaches, I think on both sides, between you and I highlighting, I feel like they deserve it. The coaching has been tremendous this year, all around. Honestly.
Okay. Join us Friday on the PSF app. Casey and I, Off the Leash, 9 p.m. We will preview the Baltimore Ravens and give you our picks. I got some celebrating to do. So let's get us the hell out of here.
There is definitely some celebrating to do tonight, and not just because of a 27-0 victory, which is still shocking. By the way, last time I'm going to say the stat, but Browns are outscoring opponents 100-51 at home, and I'm just so happy for everybody that gets to go down there, do the winner's walk. No more walks of shame, although I was at the Ravens game. That was sad, but that's neither here nor there. 4-1 at home. Amazing. I don't know the last time the Browns were 4-1 at home, but I know it's been a long time. So I'm just happy for everybody that spends their money, spends their time, makes an effort, travels, whatever. So to everybody that has been tuning in to us, we've been growing. We have been getting views, and so thank you to all of you. It means the world to us that we are able to pursue this dream and chase it every week with all of you. So thank you to everybody. The most valuable thing you can give to anyone is your time. So with that, this has been episode 128. Seven. Sorry, 127 of the Barking Brown Show. Nick, he's Casey. That's Jacob. Go Browns.
For the longest time, a natural flavoring substitute came from a gland next to beavers' anuses.